Hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome all of you back to Ohio Exopolitics. I'm your host, Mark Snider, and we've got a lot of interesting things going on. The biggest winter storm in over a decade is forecast to hit the U.S. Tens of millions of Americans are bracing for this huge winter storm that will bring the heaviest snowfall and coldest temperatures in over a decade. The storm, which will start in the middle of the U.S., will move east in the next couple of days. The National Weather Service, NWS, said that 30 states will be under major snow alerts. Alexander, I bet you're not under a snow alert, are you?
No, I wish I was.
Do you like snow?
I like the snow. When the snow's up on the mountain, I can, what do I want to do? Ski if I wanted to. I can hike through it. It also brings a lot of water down when that melt comes off of the Sangre de Cristo mountain range. So I'm all for it. Bring it over to the desert.
That's great. We're going to get 3 to 5 inches here. People like me will probably be snowed in for quite some time. I was amazed. I had a guitar thing in Zanesville at the Art Forum in downtown Zanesville, and they had 4 artists showing their work, and I was playing guitar and all that, and it was fun. But I really didn't think anyone would show up because the weather was so horrible. I mean, the wind's been blowing like crazy. So we're just going to have to see what happens here.
Yeah, I didn't actually know about the snow forecast. I don't read the news much.
I know you don't. All you do is work, right? You just are striving all the time.
Yeah, and so the news has just put me in the past, and it's horribly depressing anyway. But we all know that.
Have you seen this craziness with the Panama Canal and Trump?
No. Nope.
You know, I'm a Trump fan, but he's gone a little nuts.
I would have never guessed.
You would have never gotten that. Yeah, we'll grab it. How obvious can I be, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But he's talking about taking back the Panama Canal, and I just about spit out my water when I heard him say that.
Isn't it a part of Panama?
Yeah, well, they built it. And then they gave it to the people of Panama. Jimmy Carter did for almost nothing. I don't think they paid $1 for it, to tell you the truth. But now the Chinese are down there. I don't know what Trump's doing. I really don't know. So I'm just going to leave it at that.
Yeah.
And then he's talked about taking what is it, Greenland?
Okay.
This giant island that's next to Canada. You've not heard any of these crazy?
No, I haven't heard these things. Giant island. All I know is Greenland up there.
Yeah. That's it, Greenland. So
don't touch that place.
Yeah,
it needs to be just left alone and preserved. It holds a lot of ice on there. Let's keep it that way.
I think Denmark actually owns that giant island. Yeah. And then he's said things about making Canada the 51st and 52nd states or something. I don't know. We'll see what happens. It's craziness.
Yeah, I don't know. Canada's a fascist mess, so I don't know.
Yeah. I think they're kicking Trudeau out, which is good.
Yeah, and it's interesting. You going around claiming you're going to take all these things.
That doesn't help world peace,
I know
does it?
Quite a few people in the past that have done things like that, and it doesn't end up well.
Yeah.
It's also a very hegemonic tendency of the United States to do these things, and it leads to a lot of unrest globally every time we do it.
Right.
I think it's probably in the best interest to just leave shit alone, just stay within the 50 states, right? And
stay out of trouble.
Just stay out of trouble.
Kind of reminds me of the verse, 1 Thessalonians 4:11. Make it your life ambition to lead a quiet life. You should mind your own business. Work with your hands, just as we told you. I have to throw a Bible verse in now. I know.
Yeah, you always do. It hit me. And yeah, just
I know you feel like you got punched in the solar plexus.
Damn. Yeah, no, it's all good. Not all of the stuff in the Bible is bad. I'd probably say vast majority of it is shit, but there is some good stuff in there. You know.
Well, good to hear you say that. I'll take that.
Take your wins where you can get them, Mark.
Yeah, I do. I have to. I want to experiment and try something. Hopefully we won't screw anything up. I don't think we will. I'm going to try to share my screen.
Oh, this is a first.
And share my sound. And then I'm going to pull up that weather guy giving the weather here and see if I want to see if we can successfully share a screen, share the sound, and then get us back to the normal state, because you've had great videos lately and these people are listening to them. I don't know if you've ever been out to the M. Snider BitChute.
I've been on the BitChute like once or twice. Why, is it doing well?
It's doing well.
Great. It's good to hear. It's what we want.
Yeah.
It's about being consistent, Mark.
I think you're right. I think you're very right. Okay. So let me share this. First of all, I want to bring up the weather report thingy, and then I want to try to share my screen.
I love how you're so fascinated with the weather, too.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm going to share the sound, start sharing. So
there we go.
Can you see anything?
Yeah, I can see the weather.
Okay, and I'm going to play a little bit of this, and let me know if you can hear him.
Go ahead.
Like that. So the severe weather threat's still going to be there, but it is going to start going down.
I'll go ahead and play this for a minute or so.
Yep, go for it.
Downhill, I think, after 6 p.m., 9 p.m., we've just got some residual rain and wind moving into Alabama and the Nashville area. Heavy snow in Dayton, Cincinnati, central Ohio. Snow starting to break out in Virginia and West Virginia around 9 p.m. on Sunday. And then look at this, y'all. This actually, according to the latest HRRR model, this looks like a hard-hitting system for the Mid-Atlantic region. The entire state of Maryland may be seeing heavy snow Monday morning around 7 a.m. Very heavy snow in southern New Jersey, Delaware. Pennsylvania looks to get in on some good snow here. So that warm nose really takes a beating over the Appalachian Mountains, and more cold air is allowed to stay in place here as the system moves in. So this looks like it might be a pretty big snowstorm for Baltimore, D.C. Not quite as big in Philadelphia, but still something.
I'm going to move them forward a little bit because I want to show you this. This is interesting.
I like interesting stuff.
Check that out. And you can see the amount of snow here.
Yeah, 10, this is inches of precipitation we got going on.
Yeah. Now I'm over here. I'm in the 6 inches.
Oh.
I'm not too bad, really.
No, that's nothing.
That's nothing compared to some of these. Let's listen.
Yeah.
Seeing a really good chance of seeing well over a foot of snow if you're in Kansas, all right? Especially around Kansas City, points north and west, in extreme southeastern Nebraska as well. This is the area that's going to spend the most time in the extreme cold on the backside of the storm, while also still getting convection or still getting, the snow showers. So the snow's...
So that's like 14 inches there, 19 inches there. And I'm going to see if I can take our screen back, because we need to be able to do this. And so I'm going to stop sharing. Confirm stop sharing. Yes. Okay.
Welcome back.
So I think we're back. And we're just...
You had a big focus on the snow. You worried? You got the cats in the house?
Okay. The cats. Now the good subject.
Here we go.
They are in the garage. I got their heaters still running in there. We bought these special things you can plug straight into the wall. So there's nothing the cats can get a hold of. It's just like they go straight into the wall, straight into the electric socket, about halfway, usually wherever your outlet is. And they blow warm air. After the show, I'm definitely going to shut those down and take those out. But so they probably got about 60 degrees in the in the garage right now.
Wow,
So
they're spoiled.
they're so
Absolutely spoiled.
They're totally spoiled beyond belief. Okay, so I think we're back to our normal state. And I want to read something from the Might of Thoughts. We're going to bounce around a lot. I know that's...
Yeah, that's fine. And I, as promised, and you'll see here on screen, I brought the motto.
That's OM. That's the symbol for OM, isn't it? On the cover there?
Yeah, so, and I chose a passage for us to discuss after when you're ready.
Good. I'm still playing. Might of Thoughts, page 240. And this is a really interesting verse, and I don't know if we line up exactly. You may have a different version of Might of Thoughts than I do. It says, I'll start here. Thereby, it must simply be seen that human habits, such as the maintenance of wrong thoughts and views and so forth, leave behind deep grooves in the consciousness, which must be slowly repaired again and be made to disappear. So my first question was, what are these deep grooves in the consciousness? Is this some kind of damage?
No, yeah. All right. So there's damage to the overall thought process.
Mm-hmm.
So healthy thinking, let's start with this. So healthy thinking, say if you went down and you were playing chess a lot, or you were some sort of theoretical physicist,
mm-hmm.
Typically the brain does a good job wrestling with complexities and using large amounts of concentration, which helps, always find those new neural pathways, regenerating the brain for like the lifespan of the human being rather than having it deteriorate and dementia coming into play.
So chess is helpful.
Oh, it's extremely helpful.
Yeah, I played that a lot with the computer.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's fun to play against a weak opponent and just go real fast,
Yeah, speed chess.
Yeah, that's kind of fun. Anyway, we digress.
Yeah, so to talk about these grooves, right, you're talking about maintenance. I want you to think about thought processes if you were to go out into the woods and walk the same path every single day,
mm-hmm.
There's a groove that begins to be cut in the ground, very visible path. You can see the same thing with animals and their movement behavior. You see their natural cut paths through the wooded area. This thing happens in the mind. And so maintenance of pathways happens just from use and reuse of the same thing. You're actually maintaining it. You're keeping the weeds away in some respects. Now, if you start to maintenance bad thoughts which are ill, all you're going to do is be walking pathways which are not serving you what needs to serve you in the best manner. You're doing things that are probably more damaging. And I think that's what the Might of the Thoughts is explaining here, is that you can create those ruts in your brain, not just physically, but, metaphorically. And the more you continue to maintenance them, continue to walk those ruts, it's going to be harder for you to pull yourself out of it, right? To change that pathway, because the pathway is cut so deep. You know exactly where it is. It's going to take a long time for that growth to come back in, all that healthy growth.
So these deep grooves may be unhealthy thoughts.
Sure.
Okay.
You can get very heady, and these unhealthy thoughts, if you don't learn to control your thoughts,
mm-hmm.
they'll constantly come back up. And if you have a deep groove, it's the lowest point of, lowest point of a gravitational plane.
Mm-hmm.
So everything's always going to fall into it. So you need to be careful which grooves you're doing. All your water, all your thoughts, everything. The most likely area it falls into is the deepest point. It's like a river. Where does water? Water's typically at the lowest point where it travels through.
So on the other hand, if, for example, you were to repeat healthy thoughts, that could be used for maintenance as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Most definitely. It cuts both ways. Pun intended.
Yeah, I thought those were good verses. Another one that I thought was interesting, it says, leave behind deep grooves in the consciousness which must be slowly repaired again and be made to disappear negative, bad, unhealthy, and wrong tendencies, thereby naturally protest wildly. Let's talk about what is this protesting wildly? Is this the bad thoughts don't want to go away. They want to continue to.
They want to stay there. That's right. It's like a noxious weed.
Wow.
And with noxious weeds, you literally have to pull them out at the root. And then to get rid of them, they must be burnt. You must actually bring the weeds through a phase change, because you have to kill all their germinating pods or seeds, spurs, burrs, whatever they may be that come off of them.
Wow.
Yeah, so they have to be burnt. You actually, and what's interesting about this is if you're truthful to yourself, there's always that historical metaphor about truth being like fire. Now, if you apply that together and you use that instance in your brain, you're using the truth to burn out these noxious weeds, these things that are in protest. You can actually eradicate them. They no longer need to be there. But what's left is that your charcoal, right? That dust left from the fire, the ash. That is also very good material for growing plants. So as you burn it down, as you use the truth to burn through that and see these things and fight against the protest of these negative thoughts, which will continue to want to be there, the material you're left with is great foundational working material for healthy growth.
It also says something that is kind of interesting after that. It says, consequently, reorientation is therefore not only connected with many efforts, rather also with errors. So after we get rid of these bad thoughts, we have to kind of reorient ourselves.
Right, and you will make errors in your reorientation, but it's a requirement for evolution and striving, and actually the process of becoming more knowledgeable, right, which would lead you to wisdom over time. That's what that reorientation occurs with. We should take this a step further. Mark, go to page 268. I don't have the book in front of me. But go to page 268.
If you like this particular train of thought, 268.
Right-hand side, maybe, I don't know how far down. 3/4 of the way down. Do you see anything that talks about the law of intactness?
No, but this is a good page. There's a lot here.
Try 272.
272, the law of intactness.
Yeah. Let me know if it's on there. If it's not, I'll explain it.
It probably is. I'm just not seeing it.
Okay.
Yep.
So there's a natural law in creation, and to me, it almost seems like a derivative of a larger law, but we don't have to get into that. There's an idea that when someone has come into being, all right, say Mark Snider, when Mark is born, Mark is afforded a tabula rasa, blank slate, for personality, for everything, for health, you name it. Mm-hmm. He's born into a state of perfect equilibrium. It's a gift. It's something that has to be there. It's a fundamentally fair and firm footing for all life to springboard off of. That is the intactness. Everyone is guaranteed that. They were all given that from the core. It's at the base.
I think I've read this.
Now,
go ahead.
What's interesting about the intactness is that we make choices throughout our life that change our personality for the negative, that change our body state for the negative.
Sure.
Because we don't pay attention to this law. We don't pay attention to the fact that your body gives you everything you need to establish a beautiful equilibrium of health. Mm-hmm. But we throw ourselves out of it with our thoughts, right? With our with our bad habits, all these things. We create these grooves, these ruts that start in the mind but became destructive to the rest of the body. Mm-hmm. And because none of us have actually paid any credence or heed to this law itself, we have chosen to destroy our planet, which destroys ourselves. We choose to destroy our minds, which destroys our bodies and our relationships. It starts to erode all of these things. And the nature of rust occurs at a faster rate. What's interesting, when it comes to metal on this planet, and I remember this one thing I had read a while ago, and it might have been in the contact reports, was that objects on our planet rust at an accelerated rate. And they said it's a function of human thought. And I'm like, how in the fuck does human thoughts cause things to rust faster? And what I see is they just took something from a root cause to the nth degree. Mm-hmm. We, as humans, make choices, toxifying our atmosphere and all these other elements that occur with it, And it actually deteriorates the material things on our world much quicker, whether that be our body or physical items like, metal, right? Iron-rich metals. Those things rust at accelerated rates. And so what it's showing you is nature, if you just go out and look, is giving you an instantaneous reflection of us not appreciating this law of intactness. The fact that we were given the opportunity to show up into a place that would give us vast amounts of longevity, right, for health, right, and in our thoughts, but we choose through stupid laws or bad cultural ideas or religion to degrade the health of our systems, whether those be flora, fauna, right, the ecosystem itself, or human biological systems. Those things deteriorate. But these grooves occur, and you can start to see them everywhere. And in the rust, those grooves are occurring too. And we're doing them in such an accelerated nature. And so the same thing that happens in the might of the thoughts with the mind is also happening in our systems, in our bodies. We create these grooves, and it's starting to deteriorate things. And we're really not truly appreciating this intactness. We're not trying to preserve this law that sits there in front of us. If you have your children, right, you want to do everything you can to not pass your mistakes on to that child, correct?
Right.
Yeah, that would be the whole point of parenting. You want to give them a solid foundation. Well, a big part of that is not to interrupt the perfect state which they are born into. But that's what happens. Everything they see, observe, listen to, and then begin to dialogue with and interact with, because it has not been properly set up, they have to work through that, and that starts to erode them or change character for the negative. And so it takes that much more effort over time because so many human beings are not caring for themselves or their mindsets that everybody that child interacts with, or you, for instance, Mark, I'm not calling you a child, you have to work that much harder because all of us are not working in some concordian nature that allows us to fix these ruts, right? To burn out these noxious weeds, to remove these things that are not respective of this law of intactness.
I do remember how when I was younger, I would get caught in this kind of a repetition of a wrong thought, of an unhealthy thought, and it would make me kind of miserable.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, how do we preserve the law of intactness?
Well, the law is already preserved. The question is, do you want to preserve yourself to respect the law?
Okay.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think so.
You need to find deep amounts of self-awareness. And you have to understand that your brain does not control you. You control your brain.
I try to memorize a lot. I try to memorize passages that I think are really good.
You quoted those. Who are those people in the beginning from the Bible?
Thessalonians.
Okay. What did they talk about doing with their hands?
Work with your hands, striving.
Okay.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Think about that. Are they just memorizing?
No, they're not.
No, it's not just the mental work that is also occurring, but the physical one to balance it out. What happens is that cements new neural pathways in the brain when that occurs. So it's the combination of the physical work while thinking about these things you're memorizing, Mark. And when you apply both of those things together, your knowledge with experience, that's when Mark Snider becomes wise.
Here's a few verses for you. I am confident. I am optimistic. I am enthusiastic. I am cheerful. I am relaxed. I am the master of my own destiny. I am the forger of my own fortune. I create my good luck. I do not allow my thoughts to drift. I steer my thoughts like a captain steers his ship. I nurture my thoughts. I strengthen my thoughts. I clarify my thoughts. It is the nature of the thoughts that by their might alone, any conceivable thing can come to fruition.
Mm-hmm.
These are all great, man. These are from the Might of Thoughts book.
Yeah, but you need to recognize it. Saying it, memorizing it, but you have to recognize these things around you. You have to see how these words truly apply to your world around you. Otherwise, they're meaningless words.
They can be. They can be.
The words are of great value when actually put into practice. They're of the greatest value, frankly.
Exactly.
But it's good to repeat them. I'm not knocking on the fact
but the missing part is the striving, the ambition.
Right.
To work with your hands, to lead a quiet life. Don't be talking all the time, right?
Right.
Listen.
If I sat down, I'll listen. I'll shut up.
No.
I'm just giving you a hard time. If I sat down on the couch and I said, I'm going to be rich. I'm going to be rich. I'm rich. I'm going to be rich. I'm rich. Do you think that just occurs?
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. You can do the affirmations, which are great, but work is required. It's that simple.
Yeah,
right?
Work is required.
Work's required. Don't be shy of it. You should greet it every day, like you greet a meal.
All right,
you know?
I'm going to try something again. I'm pushing my luck here. This is a little Figu presentation. I'm going to share my screen again.
What's this one on?
Figu, kind of Figu in general.
Cool.
Yeah. So I'm going to try to share this.
And for those who are listening and this is the first time hearing about Figu, if you don't know about it, it's the free community of interests, universal.
Can you see the official trailer?
Yes, most definitely. I love how they have an official trailer. It's great.
Let me know if you can hear the sound.
Go ahead. Yeah, turn it down a little bit.
All right.
There you go. Perfect.
All you have to do is type in a search engine on the internet, Billy Meyer or Figu, and you will see there's a lot of negative hits on that search term, and there are a lot of people that have something to lose if the truth actually comes out. All the information he has given has been proven to be correct for decades. So why people aren't listening to him, I don't know.
It's also correct for them to be skeptical at first, because people need to be critical of everything they see. They can't just believe blindly.
When you first encounter this, you are confronted with a wall of skepticism and purposeful skepticism, almost like a wall, a block to stop people from getting to it. It takes a long time to filter through that. It took me 2 years of research before I understood that there was truth to it.
One of the main messages Billy says, don't believe me, think for yourself.
I think Billy refers to a lot of this as the secret sciences, how it leads to the evolution of the human consciousness, the human being, and how that has been stifled for millennia by the powerful, the religions and the political structures, and those two forms that teach people to be partisan, antagonistic, very illogical, unreasonable, unyielding, and out of touch with life and with nature. Spiritual teaching helps bring us back.
As we say, it's a mission, a voyage, it's an endeavor.
I thought I would share that with you.
Someone's got to work on balancing their audio.
Yeah. I hear you.
Yeah. No, that was good to share. What was the impetus for that, Mark?
In terms of me bringing it into the show?
Yeah, why'd you want to show it?
Well, I thought it's kind of inspiring that there are other people out there besides us that are, plugging away. Of course, we know that to be the case.
Yeah.
But it's still nice to see.
Yeah, it's a very small amount, small circle of people.
Mm-hmm.
It grows over time. You can't squander the truth. Speaking of that, how about we transition to the Alm really quick?
Are we good as far as the screen goes? Since I've done that.
We're good, man.
Okay, we look right. Okay, we're back.
We're back. So the Alm is broken down into canons, and you're used to canons, right, Mark?
Sure,
of course. Bible, verses, all that other good stuff. So again, this book's called Om Phalem Morato, shortened for OM as an abbreviation, law and commandment or law and fulfillment. And it's really talking about creation, how one should live. And this is written rather poetically, which is nice. I actually have slowly come to the realization that poetry is probably the highest form of communication.
Wow.
I found a little bit of a connection between poetry and symbolism. And symbolism is the highest form of probably anything for getting an idea across. And poetry taps at that. But I pulled something out of here. It comes from canon number 31, and whoever has the on book or chooses to pick it up, mind you, this whole thing's in German, High German. And these are pages 149 through 150. So, Mark, just to go through here and to do fairness to the book, I'm going to talk about 5 different sentences in here. I'll start with the German to give balance to it, and then we'll talk about it in English. Does that work?
Sure.
So under 289, und durch Weisheit vergentet ein gerechtigt Königs Volk und es beruft durch Weisheit seine Ratgeber und Weisen und Unterführer. So what that translates to, and through wisdom, a just king governs his people, and so through wisdom he appoints his advisors and wise men and subordinate leaders. This is pretty timely, and I thought this was important for Ohio Exopolitics. Talk a lot about politics. You talk about the elements of these people that we vote into their capacities to do the right thing for us. One thing we haven't seen is how do we collectively establish what wisdom looks like? Are we voting for these people because they are most wise? Or because they say they will do things that we feel will solve things without a guarantee that will actually work, but it just works to hear that from them, so we want to put them into power. And you and I both know that like begets like, right, Mark?
Yeah, that's correct.
So the most important thing we should do is we should have leaders who are the most wise. And that doesn't mean physicists. That doesn't mean teachers. It's people that can understand large amounts of knowledge and apply it in the appropriate place at the appropriate time under these core tenets of what it means to actually live and exist. But we're continuing to perpetuate cycles or choose people to lead us. Say, yes, that is my leader, without actually considering the application or the depth of wisdom that person may have, right?
Right.
So let's go to 291. Und die Weisheit liebe jene, diesen lieben und die sie Führer suchen, die finden sie. And wisdom loves those who love her, and those who seek her early find her. This takes a step back to where we even talked about in the conversation about children, and also the ruts that can be established and the law of intactness. So many people wait to become wise when they're close to their deathbed or when it's really late in life. I should have done this sooner. Should have thought about this. Should have considered it. You never sought out wisdom early. You never took the time to go and find that thing which is one of the core tenets of creation and life itself. Life can't exist without wisdom. You can have all the knowledge. It already exists right now. But the question is, how do you assemble it and point it towards a direction, right? Give yourself that direction, that path through the woods that is going to lead you to safety on the other side. You following me here, Mark?
Yeah, I got a question for you.
Go ahead.
I hear this phrase in German, Weisheit. I think.
Yeah, Weisheit.
Well, what is that? Exactly?
So Weiss is a white. So
White?
And height, I want you to think about elevated whiteness. So it's wisdom. The term is actually wisdom.
Oh, Weisheit.
Weisheit
term
is wisdom.
for wisdom.
Yeah. So think about how they've built this word together. It's a whiteness. It's a completion, a totality of light brought together, but elevated. It's wisdom.
Weisheit. That's so funny because my next question was, what is the word for wisdom?
Yeah, Weisheit.
So interesting. And it says, loves those who love her.
Loves those who love her.
Huh.
So her is descriptive of creation. It is the mother which births these things, even though it has no gender. It carries both energies. It's treated as the she, because she is the one that births this energy, these ideas, right? But through the potentiation of her wisdom, there had to have been a potentiating thought that drove and created her to birth this thing which you and I exist in, Mark. All right. You following?
Yeah, you know what made me think of what you were saying there? It made me think of a term I've heard, creation.
Yeah, So, or, it's not Is the
Or
Anglo-, yeah,
is that,
or, yeah,
or creation.
or, yeah, or. That's how
Okay.
it's pronounced. It means primordial.
Okay.
So if you go back to the earliest point in time, that's what or is descriptive of. The letters UR.
So
Now
our creation is not the or creation, right?
No. There's been many creations that have happened, and they consistently evolve on themselves.
Wow.
Okay.
Very
So just to repeat that line one more time on 291, and wisdom loves those who love her.
Mm-hmm.
Great. That's because if you seek creation, you will find wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
It's balanced. Immediately when you look at the statement, you see the equilibrium in the statement too. And those who seek her early find her. This isn't a really interesting tenet. It's that idea of seeking, but not starting it later, but getting ahead of it. Parents need to teach their kids to seek. They need to teach themselves to seek. And there's no better time to start than right now in this present moment. Okay? And so what are the benefits of that? We'll go to line 293. We'll skip a little bit further down. Okay? De Frucht der Weisheit ist besser denn feines Gut und ihr Ertrag ist besser denn erdelsstes Gestein. What that is saying is that the fruit of wisdom is better than the finest gold, and its yield is greater than the most precious stone. What's beautiful about this, Mark, is it reminds us that we should not be focusing on the material world so much. But we should be focusing on what we learn from it, how we are actually evolving through it, how we share, shape, and find relationships between those experiences in our life, not what we get from it in terms of stuff. Wisdom can beget wealth. No doubt about that. But also very unwise people can generate a lot of wealth. So that should tell you right there, that's not the value set. It should tell you immediately. So what is the thing that you get? It's that striving. It's that actual personal evolution that you find when you begin to seek that wealth early, right? That through that wisdom. That's what it is. That's the bread that you're looking for, that you want to feed on, if you want to use a biblical term, Mark, right? That's the thing that feeds you internally. That's where you find the longevity. That's the yield that you want.
You said originally there, wisdom loves those who love her. Do you know what German word is used for love there?
Liebe?
Lieben, right?
Liebe. Or for her, in this case, lieben, right? Diese lieben. Yeah.
Lieben is love in this case.
Mm-hmm. It is love in this case because it's love towards that feminine. Just if you're looking at the German grammar.
And Weisheit is wisdom.
Right. So let's keep compounding on this for a moment.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Okay. Let's go to 296. Und es war die Weisheit in der Schöpfung schon zum Anfang ihrer Wege, erheben sie etwas schief. This German's really tough for me because it's very explicit, and the words don't roll like Low German, I guess they would call it.
Mm-hmm.
So what this translates to, and the wisdom was in creation from the beginning of her ways, before she created anything. This is a very important statement, and it's very telling about many things. When it's written here, created is in the lower C. So we're talking really about the material realm. Before someone can choose to do something, they have the ability to take all of their knowledge, everything they do, before making an action, and think it through. And say, okay, if this happens, what is the end goal I want to achieve? And will it actually get me there? And all the logic has to be thought out. Absolutely everything had to have been considered ahead of time. And when you hear this statement that says, and wisdom was in creation from the beginning of her ways, before she created anything, that means even physical space-time. Before the very first impulse showed up out of the absolute nothingness that exists, there was wisdom. Because the wisdom applied itself to say that the impulse should be here. There should be creating. There should be creation. There should be existence. These things should go out, and like me, who have thought to create in my wisdom, put things out there that also become wise and bring that wisdom back to me. Incredible, incredible algorithm, frankly. It's beautiful. It's very, very smart. But again, it also cements the fact that it's not about the material creation of life. It's about the wisdom which we seek, which precedes those things which are material. You track on that, Mark?
The wisdom of creation was with her in the beginning of her days.
Yeah. Before the ideas of time, before the ideas of space, before those things even existed in the absolute nothingness, that wisdom was there. It had to have been there. It had to have been a precursor. You could not have created something. And I'll state this, and this will probably help. You can't create something at the very beginning that would have had that error. If you had done that, if it didn't have the perfection and perfect equilibrium of what creation truly was, this thing would have collapsed on itself a long time ago. It would have been a non-starter. It would have failed. It is the highest amount of wisdom because it continues to persist. It continues to exist. We don't just light up in a flash and disappear. This thing runs in this endless duration of cycles.
The wisdom of creation is, are we using Weisheit still?
Yes, absolutely. That does not change.
It is poetic, though. There's interesting repetition.
Yeah, und das war die Weisheit in der Schöpfung. Yeah. And Schöpfung is creation. Right?
Now, is the OM Billy's... I read it somewhere. It's like his the most important work or something. I've heard that.
I'd say the Goblet is probably the most important work because it's very applicable for anybody to read if they choose to sit down and read it. This is an old Lyran work here, the if I have that right. It may be Lyran. That's very old, and it's also important that it got preserved.
Now, did he pull this out of the storage banks mentally?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Okay. So for him, that's all up there. But
it's always there.
Yeah.
Right?
And in theory, we could do the same, but in reality, we don't, right?
In reality, we don't because we have all these ruts. We have all these protesting noxious weeds in our brain that want to keep those ugly grooves, right?
Yeah, it's sometimes probably hard to tell what in your brain is grooves. Would you call those grooves damage?
Yeah.
That needs to be repaired.
I would, because anything that takes you away from an intactness is damaging, right? So you need to repair them. You have to repair the foundation.
Anything that takes you away from an intactness. So intactness meaning that we're together, we're focused. One question,
mind, body, and spirit. Yeah.
One question I always have is it's a struggle for me sometimes to find out what triggers my enthusiasm. Why on some days am I enthusiastic, and why on other days it's a real struggle.
All right, I'm going to just give you a little clue on what you should be doing. And you need to put this into practice. Buy yourself a journal.
Really?
And I want you to write down a list of the things that make you happy or make you sad or give you energy or take that energy away from you. And I want you to do that for a month straight. You will see the pattern of why these things occur. And it will also help Mark Snider avoid, in his personality, those things which bring him down.
You want to log the things that bring you down and the things that bring you up?
You have a pattern that you do throughout your day, right? You get up at about the same time?
Sure, yeah, there's a pattern.
Feed the cats at the same time, go to work at the same time, all that stuff. So those would be very...
Now, my work now is at different times.
All right. Well,
a
don't
little
get
bit.
don't
That
get confused
doesn't.
here.
That actually is kind of nice sometimes. But
So there we go. So again, when you would be logging that, you would say, works at a different time. I'm happy to go to work because of this.
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
So
yeah.
you need to consider all these things you're doing
Ah,
throughout the day,
okay.
and then look at them over time. You will quickly see those things you actually need to cut out of your life.
They can become obvious.
Oh, they're so incredibly obvious. You've just ignored them. Those ruts, those nasty little ruts, right? That we're talking about, mind of the thoughts, you're going to identify them quickly. It's a great self-awareness practice for you to do.
And so we want to log both the good and the bad.
Yeah. I got one for me. I don't like speaking to venture capitalists. I can't stand them. I hate talking about money. I literally have no interest in it at all. Right? I try as best I can not to talk about it or isolate it to its very specific scenarios and not continue to think about it.
Wow. So
I know that it is in my best serving interest. I spend so much time being heady and being, on a computer because I run a tech company. I need to go outside. I have to equalize that time outside. It's extremely necessary for me. I have an allotment, have to do every night or very early morning. I have to go look at the stars. Have to do it. I can't not do it. Right?
So that's one of the things you would put in your log as a positive. Looked at the stars.
Yes.
And then the negative would be met with the venture capitalist.
Very negative. Negative as a kid.
Isn't there something very positive about walking too? I just read
walking is great. Yeah, I some time ago I interviewed a leading brain guy. I don't forget what the fucking word is for it. I'd interviewed him and we had gone over what happens when you're actually walking. And how it boosts creativity because the 5 different hormones or chemical levels start to change in the body. And so you get like a 200+% bonus on creative thinking just by doing walking.
Really?
Yeah. And that's why the U.S. Army picked it up, right? They have a lot of people do complex thoughts while they're like walking around. It's always funny. And you always picture like physicists walking around with their hands tied behind their back, walking around Princeton University, just thinking of equations. Walking does a lot of cool stuff.
That's interesting.
And let me continue here. This is my last line, and then we can be done with the for now. But I promised you I'd bring something, so I'm sharing it.
Okay.
303 on page 149. Und es baut die Weisheit ihr Haus und halb 7 Säulen, auf denen das steht, das Haus des Lebens bis zum sein Schöpfungsleben. This is really cool stuff. And this is something you need to consider a lot. 303 says, and wisdom built. When it says wisdom built, it's putting a parallel between her creation and wisdom itself as the same thing. And wisdom built her house and hewed 7 pillars on which stands the house of life until being. And your being is in full caps, which is talking about the creational life or the creation life. It talks about spirit itself, living in spirit. So the question is, what are those 7 pillars, which all of creation was really built on? Those 7 pillars are love, truth, knowledge, consistency, reverence, and honor. You have any thoughts on that, Mark?
I had a question, but it's more related to the previous stuff.
Go ahead.
With the journal, do you put in your journal like whether an item is good or bad in your mind?
Sure. Yeah,
Okay.
if you're interacting with it.
Okay. And so we're talking about wisdom built her house. And there are 7 pillars, and you said love, truth, knowledge. What else?
Consistency, reverence, and honor.
Reverence. Honor. Okay. Yeah, I would say this is a pretty important book.
It's as important as it gets. And when you read it, it makes you feel really good.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Something inside you changes at a core level.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's fucking refreshing, like a fountain drink.
Wow. How many of these You've got Might of Thoughts, correct? You've got the Psyche.
Yep.
You've got the Talmud of Emmanuel.
Yep.
You've got, what's the book? Die Art zu Leben.
The Way to Live.
The Way to Live. And you've got Kelch der Wahrheit.
Yep. Goblet of Truth. The Omphale Morado. The Rose-Colored Crystals. The Prophecies. Introduction to Meditation.
Wow.
The more advanced book on meditation that comes after it.
Are you buying everything from Figu Canada?
I bought what I could from there, and the rest I just get from Figu.
Okay. So you go straight to Figu for some and Figu Canada for others.
Yeah. Yeah, if the translation's any good.
Okay.
The or, right? Origin of all existence.
You can't just send them a check, though, right?
You have to...
there's this weird
There's a money
process.
transfer service. Yeah, Wise.
Money transfer service. Okay. I'll have to... It's on their website.
Yeah,
I got my books from Michael Horn when I was in Arizona. So I got all of them that way. Now, you recently did go to Arizona?
Yeah, I was over in Flagstaff. Yeah.
How many hours is that for you?
6.5.
That's not horrible.
Nothing.
Man, did you stay overnight?
Yeah. Stay overnight
Yeah.
with a bunch of FIGU members that were there, and they had held a conference, and I came and joined.
Very good. Very good. Is there anybody else in New Mexico that's studying
2 people.
Meyer? 2 people?
Yeah. I don't know how active they are.
Mm-hmm.
I've asked people if they want to get together. They typically don't.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So you also are kind of teaching another group?
Yep.
Yeah. And are you guys doing the Kelch der Wahrheit?
Yeah, we do...
Just whatever?
We do readings. I'll discuss anything that anyone wants to discuss.
Very interesting.
There's so many questions that arise, and plus every time I get to teach it and reread it, I also learn more every time, and how I speak to the subject and translate it into common terms for most people. It becomes more refined with each approach.
So in the case of this journal, like one of the things that came to my mind is when I wake up real early and the weather is horrible outside, and I look at all the horrible, weather. That would be a bad example. I mean, that'd be something you'd want to change the way you're looking at things, or just not think those thoughts, period.
Yeah. Consider how you're looking at the weather, or move.
Yeah. That's perfectly legitimate.
It's very legitimate. You don't have to stay where you are in Ohio. There's plenty of places to live.
It's a beautiful here, generally speaking, but we do get hit by this, like the weather I was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Definitely. And you don't have to end the OM.
No, that's all I had for now. If we honestly, just in those couple lines, that's a lot to unpack. And I can always bring more, Mark, if you would like me to.
Have you heard of the word logos?
Logos.
Does Billy ever use that term?
Rarely.
Logos.
I'll share this.
Go ahead.
Logos, coined by the Greeks.
Right.
It was big in the Socratic teaching with also with Plato, Aristotle. It's the developmental process of finding wisdom. That's how I would define logos. It's probably how they would define it too.
Gosh,
shame.
We're done. How did that happen?
Time.
See you in a couple weeks, man. Have a
Thanks,
good day.
Mark. Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.